Hello and thank you for joining us on today's show. This is Majority Caucus live on your multi-TV. My name is Ali Dawood. I'll be your host for tonight's discussion. Education has been an issue that has been running through, the various political parties' manifesto. Questions that have been asked is there no other policy besides education, or is education the key element that is being used by these political parties to, as it were, canvass for votes, and that they are sure to get the victory come 7th December 2012? Well, the NDC has outlined its vision also with regards to education, right from kindergarten to the tertiary. But I'm sure that there are many other issues that we could discuss with regards to education. And tonight I will do my best to make sure that we exhaust the topic education in our body politics. But to help me with this topic, I have been joined in by a very powerful guest, perhaps his first time on this show. He used to be the presidential spokesperson, and then he moved to be the Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry. And currently he is the Deputy Minister of Education and aspiring Member of Parliament for Boku Central. I am referring to Honorable Mahama Ayarga. Honorable, thank you very much for your time here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the platform and the opportunity.
You're most welcome. How is the campaign going?
It's going on well. It's going on well. I mean, I have been through this a couple of times, so it's not unfamiliar territory. I contested in 2004, and then I contested again in 2008. The same constituency, so I'm very familiar with the terrain, and I'm pretty confident that this time I'm going to win it very easily.
I've been told that you have a serious contender in the person of the managing director of Metro TV.
Yes.
Do you feel threatened by his presence in your constituency?
Oh, not at all. I'm quite surprised that he's popped up in Boku Central constituency. He hasn't been much of a known face in Boku Central constituency. In fact, he's never really been involved in the constituency and its issues. So it comes to me as a surprise that he's expressed that kind of interest in the constituency, which is good. So I don't have a problem. Just that I can assure you that he will be defeated soundly. And
you will be winning. Anyway, back to today's topic. I have seen, and I'm sure you also have, the deliberate attempt by the various political parties to meticulously redefine the tone of our campaign, putting education ahead of any other policy. Precisely, I'm referring to the MPP. Then the question will be, what will be the place, or what is the place of education on the NDC's agenda?
Education has always been the key pillar of the NDC's strategy. If you recall, in our 2008 campaign and manifesto, we talking about investing in people. When we spoke at that time about investing in people, we're talking simply about education and building the human resources of the nation. And the human resource of a nation is built through education, either through the normal schooling program or continuing education whilst people are working. And so education has always been the major pillar of the NDC agenda. And so it has been the major thing of the NDC government. In fact, if you recall, during times when the performance of the late President John Evans Atta Mills was questioned, anytime that his performance was questioned, you will see that he will go out into the communities and from community to community commissioning school projects, showing that he's expanding infrastructure for education and etc. And it was a simple statement that, look, for me, education is the key thing. It is the way to improve everybody's life chances. If you don't have an inheritance from your parents and you get a good education, it enables you to get a job, to get a source of income and livelihood in today's world. So education is an enabler of individual success. Your life chances largely depend on your level of education, which is shaped by the quality of that education. And beyond that, if you observe global trends, that knowledge is fast replacing assets in wealth creation. You look at all those who have suddenly become multi-billionaires, and it's not because they inherited anything from their parents, but they just thought through, based on the quality of education that they received, innovated, created products, and sold it in the market, and suddenly became very rich. And if you look at countries that are making so much progress, it's not because they have more oil, more gold or natural resources. It's largely countries that have invested in the people, and the people have used their intellect to create products and ultimately to become major players in the global economy and creating wealth. And so education is key to wealth creation now globally. And if you look at the Global Competitiveness Index, you see that there are 12 pillars that they look at. And out of the 12, about 5 of them, are shaped by the quality of education in your country. Okay. So to make your nation even globally competitive, you need to really focus on education and the training of your people. And when we talk about education, I think there's a tendency to focus on grammar related. It's not just grammar, it's technical, vocational, skills building, and etc. All those constitute a holistic educational system that we should have. And so for NDC, this has been a long-standing agenda. And if you look at the 4-year period that we have been in office, I will say that our major achievement has been in the education sector. And the track record shows that. If you look at the expansion in access to education, for instance, at the secondary education level, at the time that NDC took over in 2009, we had just about a little over 400,000 children in second cycle schools, that's senior high schools, which includes technical institutions and etc. About just over 400,000. Today, as we speak, we have over 750,000. That means that within the space of 3 years, we have expanded access to secondary education from just a little over 400,000 to about 750,000.
So which means to the NDC, accessibility is key.
Access is key, is that okay? And access comes with serious cost.
Of course.
It means that you will have to do more classrooms, construct more classrooms, more dormitories, more infrastructure. And so you go to the financing aspect and you see a corresponding response, which is that the spending on education has increased. Under the NPP, when 2008, they were leaving office, they spent just about 18% of government spending went to education.
Oh.
Last year, under the NDC, over 25% of government spending went to education. So you can see a quantum leap in terms of government spending on education.
There's a UN cutoff point. Have you been able to overcome that?
Yeah, we have. We have exceeded that. We have exceeded that. That is the share of a nation's expenditure on education relative to their GDP.
Yes.
Yes, and we have moved even there from what we met in, and that's supposed to be about 6%. In 2008, when we took over, we're spending 5.8% of our GDP on education. Today we're spending 6.3%. That was last year. I mean, today the year hasn't ended, so we don't have the accurate statistics for 2012. But I'm just giving 2011.
Okay.
And we spend 6.3% of our GDP on education and 25.8% of government spending.
The flag bearer of the NPP was deceiving Ghanaians when he said we haven't been able to keep up.
He doesn't know the statistics, and I think that with all due respect, it's not been his sector, so, and I don't think he's been adequately briefed on the happenings in education. I think that later on you will get to know,
obviously,
when we go along, that this government has improved the infrastructure. Okay. Even just classrooms. When we took over in 2009, we had a little over 9,500 classrooms for senior high schools. And last year, when we took the stock of classrooms that were completed, being used, we had moved it from 9,500 thereabout to 12,400. That means that just within the space of just a little over 3 years, we had increased the stock of classrooms by over or close to 3,000 classrooms. If you can imagine that, right from independence to 2000 and from independence to 2009 January, if we had 9,500 classrooms, and within 4 years we have added 3,000. You can imagine how remarkable that leap is. And you just need to look at the spending. If you take the spending on education as a whole, now you can break it into subsectors. Okay. And I'm deliberately focusing on SHS because it seems that's where the MPP is focusing on. And I'm trying to show that even there, our track record is just so impressive that we are more credible when we say, look, we understand the issues and we will do better in that subsector. In 2008, when MPP was leaving office, they are spending on SHS. That's, we do the analysis. The spending on SHS in 2008 was 171 million and 58,000 Ghana cedis in 2008. Today, 2011, that was last year. I'm not even talking about this year because this year I don't still have the figures. But last year, 2011, we had moved the spending on secondary education from 171 million thereabout to 526.8 million.
A gargantuan increment.
That's just imagine the leap. Is that okay? And last year, SHS allocation from Get Fund was the highest. About 30.4% of Get Fund allocation went to SHS because we're struggling to expand infrastructure and make sure that, you know, we create more space for children to be able to access senior high secondary school, senior high education. So looking at the figures, you can see the leap, the progress that has been made. Yes, you want to ask?
That brings me to the question. The fact that everybody is focusing on education. I'm wondering, is that the right path to chart? Is that the way to go? Why education?
I think that's where also I have a problem with the NPP's approach to this campaign, where they make it seem as if not just education. Education for me is key because as far back as 2008, as I said, our campaign had 4 pillars. One of them was human resource development. Is that okay? Investing in people. So education is key to us. But there are other things that are equally important. Job creation, agricultural, feeding the people, having a healthy nation, and etc. All very important issues. But
I want you to hold on. I'll be right back. And when we come back, Honorable Mahama matters arising thereafter. And Honorable, before my break, you were telling me why you think whether or not education should be the way to go. And you had particular problem with the approach adopted by the MPP.
Well, I mean, clearly, education is a central issue in any country's strategy to develop, to advance now. And so I think that there's no problem with education being a major issue. I'm particularly proud that education has become the issue in this election, given my own portfolio as Deputy Minister for Education. It just makes my post very important, as you can imagine.
You become more relevant.
As you can imagine. But putting jokes aside, I think that any country that is looking to really develop must pay serious attention to education, because development now is about the human beings and not just about how much the stock of natural resources. and the space that you have in terms of land size and etc. So education is a key thing, but it has to be a holistic program, and that was what President John Dramani Mahama emphasized. It has to be a holistic program, paying particular attention to the foundation, paying particular attention to the foundation, because the problems we have in education has often been as a result of the very weak and fragile foundation that we have in our educational sector. And that is why the NDC in the last 4 years focused on making sure that the things that go into making basic education to be of good quality and to provide the right kind of foundation are the things that we invested in. When we talk about having constructed over 1,700 basic schools, it is because we believe that the children should have a good environment in which to learn, and the teacher should have the right
can't
environment.
Find the schools.
Well, that's because they are all sitting in Accra here.
Obviously.
And even in Accra, if they just walk to the mayor, he will send them around to the modern schools that he's built for Accra. And you just need to drive into any of the communities, any of the districts. And
I'm aware the shift system has been abolished in Accra.
In Accra. And in most of the districts, we're trying to abolish the shift system. Even in my district, in faraway Boku, we're trying to abolish the shift system. And so you see that there are a lot of primary schools being built. Even where old schools existed, you needed to add additional classrooms so that they can abolish the shift system. And in communities that didn't have schools, we are building schools within reach of almost every child. So we focused on the foundation. And key in education is the motivation of the teacher. When you look at the public service, teachers constitute the largest force. I mean, over 100,000, in the public service. And they are the majority in the public service. So the whole single spine salary structure, the implementation of that program benefited largely the teachers. And we tried very hard to deal with the issue of equalizing the remuneration system, because there has been this old issue of teachers not being properly placed in the scheme of things. And so the single spine salary structure was to properly grade and place teachers within the public pay system where they rightly belong. And that led to, very impressive improvement in the remuneration package of teachers. The project is not completed yet because the negotiations are still ongoing for some allowances that they must get. We even promised a 20% allowance for teachers who agree to be posted to remote areas, deprived districts, rural districts, and etc. And so alongside the building of infrastructure, we also focused on the remuneration of the teacher, the welfare package of the teacher.
Which is very critical.
Which is very critical in education. Because really the teacher is the focal point. And we are not just paying lip service to teacher first as a slogan,
some people
but we actually took bold steps and initiatives to make sure that teachers feel well placed within the public pay structure and got an equivalent of what they deserved within the public pay system.
And then perhaps that would automatically render the slogan "Teachers First" a moot one.
Well, I mean, this is an old slogan. I mean, I'm not sure that it's of any relevance now, given how far we've gone in terms of implementing the single spine. There are other things that remain to be done. I'm not saying that everything that needs to be done to improve the condition of the teacher or to fully motivate the teacher has been done, but we are doing that. We are making sure that we put in place accommodation facilities. You go around the senior high schools, we're building, 3-story facilities, 6-unit flats. Several secondary schools are getting those ones. We are going down and building teacher accommodation for primary schools in remote areas so that teachers can agree to go and live there. So we are also improving the training programs. We've been having discussions with the tertiary institutions which are running sandwich programs to make sure that the pricing of these long distance programs that teachers need to undertake so that they can be teaching whilst in school is done in such a way that teachers can afford. And secondly, it is structured in such a way that the time does not conflict with the time when teachers need to be in classrooms teaching and all that. And in addition, we have on an annual basis about 9,000 teachers who are on steady leave with pay, you know, and we are also training untrained and unprofessional teachers to become professional teachers. And we just secured some funds from the Global Partnership for Education to provide training for an additional 8,000 non-professional teachers.
Do you know something, not to cut you,
yes.
I have no doubt that people are aware of this, you know, significant feat that the NDC has chalked. But the problem is, they've been wondering, is the NDC government against free education?
Not at all. Indeed, I think that there is a national commitment to free education. And if you look at our constitution, it says emphatically that basic education shall be free, compulsory, and universal. And that was the basis of launching the F-Cube. And this is also part of global commitments that we have made. Is that okay? And so the MDGs have education components at the basic level and gender dimensions to education and etc. that are obligations nations must live up to. And in our own constitution, we've made basic education free, universal, and compulsory. And that's the basis of F-Cube. And for the secondary education, we've also said that it should be made progressively free. So it is a constitutional commitment that is there. But how do you define progressively free? How do you structure the delivery of secondary education in such a way that you have access at progressively lower cost while still maintaining quality? Because we've seen what has happened to basic education. When we declared that basic education is free, compulsory, and etc., and therefore no public basic school can take money from parents again. And we implemented capitation grants. You look at the performance of the public basic schools and it hasn't been that impressive, okay? I always cite this example. Even the teachers shy away from sending their own children to the free public basic schools.
They tell you they are not confident.
They prefer to send their awards to the private basic schools. They believe that those ones are of a higher quality. What is the determinant of quality? One is resources. Second, of course, is supervision. Is that okay? And etc. Of course, there's also the issue of parental support in the whole process. And so the issue of free, yes, it's in the Constitution. We are working progressively towards that. And let me also use this opportunity to address some issue. When the whole debate about free HSS began, I must admit to say that some of my own colleagues in the NDC did not take their time to respond to the issue appropriately. Let me tell you, globally, everywhere, internationally, when they talk about free education, they're talking about tuition being free. When you talk about free education, you're talking about tuition being free. All the other things that are added, they are optional for a country, for a government. In Ghana, and you remember when the debate started, they said that Kenya has free education for senior secondary schools. I met the Minister of Education of Kenya and I asked,
is it free?
What are the components of your free education? He said, oh, free education means free tuition.
That's all.
But the transportation to school is your business. If you decide to come and live on campus, where you sleep is your business. If you decide to feed yourself on campus, your feeding is your business. But government will build the classrooms. Government will employ the teachers. Government will give them teaching and learning materials. And you, the child, you will not pay for the tuition. That's their understanding of free education. That is the situation in Kenya, and they can go there. I can give them airfare to go there and then find out
for themselves.
Okay? In Ghana, it's the same thing.
Okay.
It's always been the same thing in Ghana. In Ghana, you don't pay for tuition. Every child in senior high school in Ghana does not pay for tuition because government builds the schools, government pays the teachers, and government provides some teaching and learning materials. There's a distinction between students in the three northern regions and students in the southern part of the country. That's the 7 other regions. In the case of the students in the three northern region, in addition to tuition being free and accommodation being free where it is available, feeding is also free. In the case of students in the south, tuition is free if it is a government school. Accommodation is also free if it is available and it's a government school. But you feed yourselves.
I'm sad I have to do this, but hold on. When I come back, we'll deal with this aspect. I do not want to break your momentum. Stay with me. Don't go away. The discussion is getting much more interesting. I'll be right back.
Documentation.
Welcome back to Majority Caucus. If you're just joining us, this is live on your multi-TV. Before Honorable Mahama Ayarga continue with the discussion, which I know you can't wait to listen to, let's take some excerpts from the President's delivery at the IEA encounter.
I come from a family that understood firsthand the power of education to change a person's life. My father's very first profession before he entered politics and later became a farmer was a teacher. He laid the groundwork for a number of individuals, not just his children, to be able to attend school. I know and respect the importance of education. Our Constitution guarantees free, compulsory, universal basic education. We currently pay 4 cedis, 50 pesos per child per year for basic education. The reality is that basic education is still not free, not compulsory, nor universal. Parents are still compelled to bear some cost at the basic level. As a Social Democratic Party, we believe that education is a right and that there must be equity in terms of access and quality education for all. Therefore, by 2016, we intend to ensure that basic education is completely free for all.
Welcome back to the show. I'm still here with Honorable Mahama Ayarga, Deputy Minister for Education. Honorable, you were giving me the various definition of free education compared with Kenya, for instance.
Yes, so the point that I made before you went on break is that in Ghana, as in Kenya, which is the country that the MPP chooses as the comparison, tuition is free for every child in senior high school. Tuition is free. No child. Just take your term bills and see if anybody ever charges you for tuition. If a non-Ghanaian child attends any of our public schools, that person will pay per term about 400 Ghana cedis for tuition. If a non-Ghanaian, a foreigner, attends our public schools. So no Ghanaian child gets charged for that. Then everywhere where there is housing, that is dormitories and hostels, government ones, the children don't pay for accommodation in every public school in this country, every public senior high school, either in the south or in the north. The only difference is that in the north, they get fed in addition.
To
they get feeding grants, in addition to the free accommodation, in addition to the free tuition, and etc. But in the south, they don't get fed. So they have to pay for feeding.
So for instance, when I'm being told that my president, our president, enjoyed free education, the only difference is that he had a free meal.
Precisely. That's the main difference between Achimota School and then Bolga Senior High School. That Achimota, the teachers are employed and paid by government to teach. That the building is built by government. I will get to parents' contribution through PTAs later. The only difference is that in Achimota, the children have to pay for their feeding. In Bolga Senior High School, the children have to pay, they don't pay for their feeding. They don't pay for their accommodation. They also don't pay tuition. Now, when you take a term bill and look at it, these are the costs to parents that the government or the schools take. Uniforms, school uniforms.
Okay.
You are asked to provide your school uniform, but the schools prefer to take the money and provide a uniform. The reason why they call it uniform is that they want it to all look the same. And so if they ask parents to bring the uniforms, some will go and bring different shades of the same color. And so the school might just look multicolored instead of being uniform.
And disorganized.
So the schools insist on having the parents pay for the uniforms, and then they will provide them the uniform. Otherwise, ordinarily, they will just say, walk to the school, just bring a uniform. There are 3 sets. You have the uniform for classes, which are 2 sets, two pieces. And then you pay, I think, 20 Ghana cedis for the uniforms. And then they ask for after-class wear. You've been to secondary school, you know.
Yeah.
After-class wear, that one too,
white,
you pay for that one. Then sports kit for PE, physical education. They ask you to bring that, and then the school takes it. Then they have a number of things that they embark on their own. For instance, they asked that children should contribute 1 Ghana cedis per term for science lab.
Yes.
1 Ghana cedis for this. And the schools want to conduct termly examinations and etc. And so they ask the children to pay 4 Ghana cedis for term exams. That's for printing, the examination fee and etc. Yeah. Those are the little cost that when you build up, it comes up to about 75 Ghana cedis for most students who are going on a termly basis. The rest of the charges are what you call PTA levies. The rest are PTA levies. And how did the PTA issue arise? Some parents feel that their wards are living in a school that doesn't have a fence wall around it, and they're not comfortable. They're lying at home, they're not comfortable what their daughter is doing in school. They think that if there's no wall around the school, it just makes getting out of campus, school premises so easy and etc. And teachers might not be monitoring. So parents come together and say, we want to do a school wall. And government says, I prefer to put my money into building additional classrooms for those who are out there struggling to come in, and dormitories to house them. And parents say, we'll help with building the school wall. So a PTA levy of 20, 30 Ghana cedis per child. Things like that. Yeah. Those are the things that have gone to increase, significantly the fees at the secondary school level. And that was why when the president spoke at the IEA, he spoke about rationalizing PTA contributions. Yes. Because in some places they are quite high. It's big. Some parents are not active members of the association. Yes. And all that. Some parents are not active members of the association. So they end up not going for meetings, and a few parents come, and then they might be, very concerned parents who are willing to invest. Yes. So they go and vote for some of these things, and others feel obliged to pay. So those are the things that actually go into the costing. But since we took office as a government, we've been taking steps to reduce the cost to parents as part of our responsibility to progressively make it free. And to this extent, we have increased the subsidy to senior high schools from 17.7 million in 2008. NPP government gave subsidy to SHS 17.7 million. Last year, 2011, this government gave subsidies of 44.6 million. So we moved the subsidy from 17.7 million to 44.6 million. And what does the subsidy take care of? See, the subsidy takes care of a lot of things that the parents would have taken care of. So when you increase the subsidy, you reduce what is required from the parents. And that's how...
Apart from the tuition being free.
Apart from the tuition being free, the subsidy is to be used. Every child enjoys in a senior high student. Every child enjoys a government subsidy of 64.35 Ghana cedis. And it is used for general stationery for the school, first aid, maintaining the buildings.
Okay.
So building maintenance, sports fees. So I get surprised when I get a call from a radio station in Kumasi saying that a school has asked children to bring money for paint. I got that call at the beginning of last year.
By the government.
Because, yeah, the government subsidy that goes to the school, which is 64.35 Ghana cedis per child. So it is for building maintenance, sports fees, sanitation, culture fee, postage, textbook user fee, science and vocational and agricultural practicals fees, tools and other machinery, furniture maintenance, utility, the electricity and water. For utility, we pay 18 Ghana cedis per child, per annum, you know. And when you multiply that by the number of children that we have in senior high school, last year we paid a subsidy of 44.6 million. So that's how you make it progressively free. When you increase the subsidy, you reduce what is required of the parents, then you are progressively making it free. The debate, and I think that is misunderstood. The NDC is not against free education. Okay. What they said was that, and these were people who spoke earlier in response to Nana Akufo-Addo, is that what he is saying is not practicable in the immediate future. Okay. Why do I say it's not practicable in the immediate future? Today, as I told you, we have free feeding for the 3 northern regions. Okay. The total number of students in the 3 northern regions are 103,000. 103,000 children in the 3 northern regions, a little more than that.
Okay.
Please, you are in the media. Which year since 2000, not 2009, since 2000 till date, which year haven't you heard in the news that the schools in the 3 northern regions are either postponing reopening or closing because the feeding grants
I remember
haven't been sent?
The school was closed down for a number of weeks. Yeah,
it's not
6 weeks.
It's
yeah,
not
6 weeks.
If you remember, then it's every term, every year. The 8 year that the 8 years that MPP was in office, every year, every term, the schools threatened to either close down or postpone reopening or close because the feeding grant didn't come. And I'm not holding brief for NDC. Under the NDC, it's happened several times. Even whilst I was sitting there at the Ministry of Education, that school will not reopen as scheduled because the feeding grant is not available, or they are closing because feeding grant is not available. And that is for just the 3 northern regions. And that is just for 103,000. That's the total number of children in the 3 northern regions. In Ashanti region alone, there are over 175,000 children in SHS. In Ashanti region alone. I'm not talking about Western region, and in particular Central region, where almost most of the senior high schools are, or in the Volta region, which has so many senior high schools, and Greater Accra, and Eastern, and Brong Ahafo. You know, that is just 3 regions put together. Is not up to the number in Ashanti. And if government hasn't been, you know, up to the task of feeding the children in the 3 northern regions.
You wonder.
How can you overnight convince me that all of a sudden we'll be able to feed all the children in the country efficiently? And feeding is not just the only component of the cost. There are other things. The infrastructure,
Clearly,
the number of teachers,
I
the this,
some
the that. And that is the argument. The argument is that, look, he probably doesn't understand the education sector, doesn't understand what is happening there, doesn't understand the issues, and is just making a promise that he believes will win him votes. Okay. And especially when it comes at a time when the school year is beginning and parents are grappling with their own contribution to get the children to go to school. I must confess that being a parliamentary aspirant and a deputy minister and a community leader and a past member of parliament for my constituency, on a daily basis I have children approaching me to ask for some support to pay for the little uniforms and extra charges that they will have to pay. So I do admit that there is some, situation there. And in fact, I want to make one very important revelation. One important revelation. When we came to office, we developed the education strategic plan of 2010 to 2020. Education strategic plan 2010 to 2020. And if you go to page 25 of our education strategic plan, when we go to second cycle education, we mentioned our strategic goal. We said, and we presented free education in a different form. We said that...
Hold on. So clearly the import I get is that if free education is to be defined just by the absorption of cost, tuition fee by the government, then already education is free.
Education is free.
But I will go for my final break. When I come back, you would tell me more about the NDC's strategic educational plan. Stay with me. Don't go anywhere. I will be right back. Welcome back to Majority Caucus Live on your Multi TV. I now invite you though to join in the discussion on 0302-211-70124. I take that again, 0302-211-70124. Honorable, you're telling me about the NDC strategic plan.
Yes, when we assumed office, we developed a 2010 to 2020 education strategic plan, and it's done not just by NDC as a government, but by the players in education. Both the government and the GS and civil society. And when we came to secondary education, we said that one of our objectives will be to make available free public and private second cycle education and training for those eligible. For those eligible. And this is how we defined the process. And that's the point that we've been making. Is that okay? And if you go to page 29 of
mark that page now. I'll come back to you quickly. Let me take this caller. I have Razak on the line. Hello, Razak. Good evening and welcome to the show.
Yeah, good evening, my brother. This is Razak Bunu from Atlantic, Bolga.
Razak, you're on air.
Yeah, I welcome to our deputy minister. But actually, I am not happy how the minister is throwing his questions or whatever you are asking him. Why is that I'm asking? Because during the NDC regime, there was even stacking the school children because of the feeding of the decent. I hope you know about it. But he's trying to say that it's only the MPP regime it was that decent. But I wanted to ask him whether
I'm not sure, Razak. If you were watching attentively, I'm sure that the minister was very balanced in his discussion. No such submission was made.
You really let me finish my decision.
Briefly.
You see, if you are looking at our president himself, he has been at the free education. And then our deputy minister, he's from North. So why not for you people to sit down and look at it, then how are you going to help the Northerners?
Thank you, Razak. Thank you very much for your view. Unfortunately, I do not have much time. I believe your concerns have already been addressed if you were watching. I have my next caller on the line. Hello?
Yeah, hello. Good evening.
Good evening and welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'm Kelvin.
Yeah, Kelvin, you're on air.
Yeah, you see, the problem I have about this free SHS is that the minister over there, he is fighting to go to parliament, to go and join the 7,200 Ghana cedis that they will be paying them.
Nobody,
at the village.
Kelvin, hold on.
Hello.
I am aware the president has not approved this salary proposal, so you might want to check your records.
If it is approved.
It hasn't been.
Oh, okay, fine. If that is what we are hearing. Somebody in the, they are talking about the first SHS. It's only about the people they are talking about the city. But they have forgotten about the people in the villages.
Thank you very much, Kweku. Unfortunately, I do not have much time. Sorry, Kelvin. Hello, Kweku. Hello, Kweku. Yeah, honorable.
Yes, so let's go back to the education strategic plan. And this is what we said in the education strategic plan. Listen carefully. Most of the students attending public senior secondary actually come from private schools. So they are not that, poor, looking at the fact that they went to private public school, private basic schools and paid. This is what the Education Strategy Plan says, and should not receive boarding subsidies. However, it is important to subsidize needy students, especially those from northern and other hard-to-reach areas.
Okay.
The scope of boarding and hostel provisions at senior high level will be reviewed in 2010. The following will be considered. This was in our education strategic plan at the Ministry of Education.
Okay.
We considered the issue of making secondary education free, but only to those who really need it and cannot afford it. And that was the point that the president made in Ho, that yes, already tuition is free, housing is free. In the north, feeding is free. Even that with difficulty.
Of course.
Is that okay? And he wasn't listening. I said all governments.
Yes.
Both MPP,
Clearly.
8 years, and NDC, 4 years. It's been a constant practice. And we've been grappling with that problem. There are costs. And those costs, we are saying that we will find ways and means of making sure that those who cannot afford, and I think the second caller, that was his concern.
Yes,
but instead of
those in the
launching onto
villages.
that, he was talking about MPs getting 7,000, etc.
Clearly,
So I
an
would rather
issue-
focus on the positive aspects of his concern. And we said that we would make it free for those who are needy and from poor regions, and etc. And we said that the following will be considered: rationalization of some boarding facilities, except for those from disadvantaged areas and for girls. So for girls, we'll make it free, and means testing using Ministry of Manpower model and cost recovery from parents and guardians. That's what the president said in Ho, that we will use a means testing mechanism to find out the children who really are poor and cannot afford to even make the modest contributions that they are making now for secondary education. And then also, we will rationalize the whole idea of parent-teacher association contributions to make sure that some parents don't meet and impose on other parents burdens that they cannot carry along. Those are the commitments that we are making. And our strategy going forward, is that if you look at the whole cost of delivering secondary education, a lot of the burden is in the area of investing in the infrastructure, building more classrooms, building more dormitories, feeding the children, and etc. And globally, the approach now is to reduce the cost on government, the cost to government, by moving in the direction of community day schools. When it's a community day school, this is what happens. Government only does the classroom. Government does maybe a library, is that okay? Computer, laboratories. Government doesn't have to construct dormitories. Government doesn't have to construct huge dining halls and cafeterias and etc. And government doesn't have to feed the children 3 times a day on campus. Government may consider giving them 1 free lunch a day, just to encourage them to stay in school after lunchtime and study and do additional learning. But the pattern now is to move in the direction of
is that where the 250
That's
schools?
why NDC says we'll do 250 community day schools, and that will reduce the cost to government, and that will increase access, and then the boarding schools will still be there, only for children who live so far away from the schools and cannot commute to school on a daily basis. Then they, just as they do in primary school. I mean, all of us in our primary school, very few people in their primary school were boarding students. So in the secondary school, why must it be an issue?
I'm running out of time.
Yes, thank you. So if you look at the track record of the NDC in the last 4 years, I am so proud, because when you listen to the debate between NDC and NPP, and we are comparing our performance, it will not even occur to you that you are comparing a 4-year record
yes.
with an 8 years record.
I think the distinction is clear.
I mean, so I'm so impressed with the NDC. Okay. When we debate education and we are so confident about our track record and our performance, it is important for people to also know that this was achieved in 4 years relative to MPP achieving theirs in 8 years.
Honorable, unfortunately.
And lastly, we haven't even touched the phenomenal work that we've done in tertiary education.
Good.
You know, where we have done two new universities.
I intend to have you here in the course of the coming weeks.
Yes.
Hopefully you make time to join me here. Clearly, we couldn't exhaust the topic
education is such a broad sector
obviously.
My good friend Nana Ado needs to take time to
But
learn.
I know you are Muslim. Tomorrow is Eid al-Adha. What message do you have for Ghanaians?
I wish everybody happy Eid. I always want to caution our brothers and sisters, especially in my community, Nima and Mamobi. You know the motor riding events that take place on that day and the risk to life. So I urge them, even in the midst of the festivities, let's not carry it to extremes so that we can all enjoy it tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Honorable, for making time to join me in the studio. Unfortunately, we'll draw the curtains on tonight's edition of Majority Caucus. To my Muslim brothers and sisters in Ghana and across the globe, I say happy Eid al-Adha and be safe and be wise. Make a date with me next Tuesday, same place, same channel. Bye-bye.